Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Content Show brought to you by Click2View. I'm Simon Kearney. I'm the CEO of Click2View, and I'm joined today by our scripted content director and Singapore's most famous Russian comedian, Artur Akhmetsyanov.
Hello, and привет. That's hello in Russian, just to establish the rules from the very beginning.
So we're talking about our this show comes to you off the back of our weekly newsletter called Content Confidential, and today we're talking about podcasting, and podcasting is really entering the mainstream, and I guess particularly now with everyone sitting around home, not having a lot to do, I expect it's probably going to get even bigger. So the highlights of our blog on podcasting are that 1 in 4 Americans are tuning in weekly to podcasts. More than half of Americans now listen to a podcast. And to put this in context, Joe Rogan, who's a very popular podcaster, and he also broadcasts his podcast on YouTube, it's heard by about 10 million people each episode. CNN star anchor Anderson Cooper is lucky if he gets 3 million. CNN, by the way, has 3,000 employees. Joe Rogan has a guy named Jamie. What do you think, Artur? Do you listen to podcasts?
I think for me personally, it's been kind of on and off passion. Sometimes I have a wave of podcasting where I just listen everything, and then suddenly it just goes down. But I guess the numbers definitely show that probably there is some attitude towards the normal news, and people just want to tune off out of all this negativity and try to listen to actually things that matter. And I definitely see more and more podcasts coming up out of brands, a lot of corporations trying to communicate thought leadership with this audio medium. And I personally do stand-up comedy, and I see that there is a huge boom, especially in Russia. It seems that every second comedian starts his own podcast.
Well, I think one of the things, a couple of comments. Firstly, an insight from our blog, which is, for a long time, podcasts were seen as an American thing, and and sort of something in the West. But if you looking at the stats now with some better data collection, 58% of South Koreans are listening to podcasts monthly. It's 55% in Hong Kong and 47% in Taiwan. So podcasts are really taking off in Asia. I tend to think that podcasts, it's another channel. So like it's not an exclusive thing. Like if you're writing a blog, that's a written format, and podcast is an audio format, and there are going to be people who prefer to consume content in an audio format. Some people are going to prefer to continue to consume content in a written format or a video format like this. So we've come up with a cartoon inspired actually by the Singapore's NUS and their wonderful COVID-19 information cartoons. So we did a cartoon about podcasts, and so there's 4 reasons why podcasts are going through the roof and entering the mainstream. And Artur, I'll let you talk to a little bit of this. So reason 1, technology.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest reasons why a lot of the trends happening, and podcast is one of them. It's just data and all the wireless devices that entered our life and became just mainstream. Now you basically can listen to podcasts from anywhere because you have mobile data and you have just a pair of AirPods, or you have your home device. So technology is just allowing you to listen to anyone from anywhere.
Yeah, I think more than half of listeners are doing housework, cooking, or driving while they're doing it. 43% listen to podcasts at the gym. 37% are squeezing in a podcast at work.
Yeah.
I don't ever have time to do that, or the concentration or the attention span, but that's just me. I think the other thing is like some of the other apps, like TikTok, for instance, downloaded 323 million times in 2019. that's just in India, I should say. So it's podcasts and mobile digital consumption of content is spreading all around the world. Reason 2, authenticity.
Yeah, I guess again, like we know that behind podcasts, essentially there are humans, right? People talk to people. People talk about their interests, and I think podcast is kind of like a very minimalistic content type, right? It's not like a blockbuster movie where you can hide behind special effects. Podcast is like that's your voice. You can add some sound effects, but in most cases, I think it's just a very stripped down version. And if people like what you're talking about, they like your personal stories, your point of view on things, you basically get the audience. And Joe Rogan, I guess he's a great example of that.
Yeah. I mean, and I've watched a couple of his shows, and it's amazing. You find yourself sitting there watching an hour-long program of two people chatting together, which, if I'm honest, it would be very hard to pitch that idea to a client or a TV station, just two people talking. But the audience is obviously following. I mean, Joe Rogan's an interesting guy. He's funny, and he's opinionated, and so that draws you in. And he also has great guests.
Yes.
And that's always a chicken and egg thing. So I think, initially he would have probably leveraged his network to get good guests on. Now they're probably clamoring to come on because of the profile that they get from being on Joe Rogan. Reason 3, the long tail. And this is fascinating. So apparently McDonald's used to sell pizza. Who knew? And anyway, somebody did a podcast. Whatever happened to pizza at McDonald's? And it's going strong after 150 episodes.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I don't know. Is it like a comedy mystery investigation or something? But it's fascinating that you can actually build an audience and keeping them engaged over the long series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell you now, I'm not going to listen to that podcast.
Maybe one episode.
I'll just have a look at it, maybe just to see what's going on. But so by the long tail, it's a term that was coined by the former Wired editor Chris Anderson, referring to the digital age's ability to be able to provide an endless number of products for an endless number of interests. And that's the other side of this. And for digital content generally, is you're honing right down into a niche, and people are only going to tune in for the bit that they're interested in. The final reason is money. Podcasts are monetizing ad revenue at 1 cent per hour versus 11 cents for radio, 13 cents for TV, which is a low, and it's going to get bigger. Spotify's bought another podcast company last month. It spent $400 million snapping up podcasts. I believe that the New York Times is in talks to buy the people who produced the famous podcast Serial. I think that's correct. And the numbers that are being talked around is around $70 million, which is bloody awesome. PricewaterhouseCoopers estimates total podcasting revenue will jump to $1 billion next year. Maybe we should get into this, Arta.
I guess, yeah, that's definitely a way to go. But I guess, again, I agree with you that podcasts should be considered as just part of the whole transmedia storytelling. And for example, I see a lot of brands publish on their YouTube channels like a videos just with a cover, but it's also the sound recording. So they interconnect all the assets. And the same Joe Rogan, he's a comedian, right? So clearly his 10 million views and his enormous audience helps him to sell the tickets, right? Yes. So it's all interconnected. So I'm not sure that the revenue will only come from, for example, sponsored posts, right? Like those small audio commercials. I'm sure there are some other ways interfere than maybe some sort of product placement, but in a more engaging way.
Yeah. What I love about the way ads appear on podcasts is it's like 1950s televisions. This was brought to you by Happy Snowflake washing powder or something like that.
But I think more and more
from our sponsor.
Yeah, more and more podcasters are getting creative with that, and I guess that's where it kind of becomes fun, that people appreciate that you are having some comedic spin on
Yeah,
certain things. Yeah.
yeah. Um, Look, so the next item in our newsletter this week was about fake news and COVID-19, and I'm beginning to get to the stage where the less inexpert commentary on COVID-19, the better that's out there. So I don't want to talk to this too much. But Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are working together to reduce fake news. It is everywhere, and I don't know if you've seen well, I'm sure you've seen posts, and there's malicious posts. It looks like your compatriots back home, Arta, are busy.
I guess so. I guess so.
So
I guess, yeah, but the best way is probably, if we're talking about something serious and health related, I guess just trust the sources. Like in Singapore, it will be Ministry of Health or some government boards versus some local niche influencers or someone who is posting stuff. But in general, again, like we kind of trust all these big platforms to come up with ways to filter stuff. But at the end of the day, um, they probably have their own interests. So at certain censoring, maybe not related to COVID, but other stuff, it can be all very blurry in a gray area.
well, so I mean, as a journalist, I'll tell you the rules are basically don't trust hearsay. So if somebody's telling you something that their cousin who works in the laboratory and blah 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 is, it's almost certainly not properly sourced. And then, like you do when you get a suspicious email, like a phishing email or something like that, go to check the URL. Like go to WHO. They're putting out a huge amount of information that is all checked and correctly sourced by the scientists. And also the other one that's emerging, and there's a lot of good sources as well, like reputable media outlets are doing a great job, and also Johns Hopkins University has sort of established itself as the central coronavirus resource. So I just urge people to be careful about what they share. I saw one of the political commentators in Australia, somebody who usually likes having a real go at the government, wrote a column yesterday just saying, it's time for me to shut up and not add to the noise that's going on at the moment, because it's serious. And I tend to agree with that. Anyway, so Facebook, Google, and Twitter and Instagram are getting together to reduce fake news. Unfortunately, Facebook had a bit of a problem with its when it started doing this, which meant a software bug caused a lot of legitimate coronavirus stories being shared to be marked as spam. And interestingly, what we're seeing is also, because so many people are working from home in Facebook and Google, a lot of the moderation is actually being left to the machines. And YouTube posted something just yesterday, I should say, about just warning content creators that some of the moderation is going to be handed over to the AI during this. So it's going to be, we'll talk about this another time, but it's going to be very interesting to see what the way life is changing at the moment, what changes, and which of those changes become permanent after all this is over in a few months.
Yeah, hopefully in the next half a year it will all stabilize, but we will see definitely the new normal, because I guess the disease itself will not go away, but as with all the previous influences and coronaviruses, hopefully the overall humanity immunity will get stronger. But I guess certain things in terms of the ways people work, and they might actually become a bit more permanent.
Yeah. So finally, Arta, can you go through your video picks of the week, starting with one of ours from East Spring Investments?
Sure. So we featured 5 things this week. The first one was for the East Spring Investments, and we basically helped to create an animated video that introduces one of their new funds dealing with Asian real estate. And I guess these days very crazy for all the markets around the world. And I think one of the benefits of these funds is that they basically diversify the real estate investment to minimize the risks. But I think in general, again, like I'm not the investment and wealth management expert, but I think I like the idea of investing long term, and all the crises they happen, but then they go. So I think if you make sound investments, it probably should be something long term. But I guess
You're the expert in creating explainer videos for investment and wealth managers.
yes, exactly. And I guess the message here is that yes, you might have cancellation of face-to-face events, talking about all these insights, but motion graphics and animation can be a great way to communicate the messages that you have. And
on that great sales note, maybe we move on to the Lego video.
Sure. And the second video was how the designers create new Lego themes, and it's very exciting because you basically have like a round table full of graphic designers and element designers, and they talk about their inspiration, how they walk around the street, they see some visual elements, and they grab them, and then they work with another person to create those small elements, 3D model them. So it's kind of like the hidden life and how things created in Lego.
It sounds a bit like the writer's room on a sitcom.
Yeah, like I had the same feeling. I don't know whether it's the same pressure that this guy is facing. Another example, another video that we shortlisted is from UOB, the local Singapore bank, that basically tries to talk about the investing landscape as well, but explains the simple concepts using the very interesting parallel with recipes. So they talk about dollar cost averaging and how it is similar to cooking a pea risotto using some famous chef. So that's an interesting way. And again, like some of the financial institutions can learn how to combine entertainment and education.
Excellent.
Volvo is released the video that they're trying to tackle the climate challenges by open innovation and basically asking people to contribute. And apparently that's almost 40% of the global CO2 emission coming from the construction industry. So I guess innovation in this industry definitely is worthwhile. And finally, we featured one video of the Porsches. They follow two guys who basically remodeled a classic Porsche 912 for the journey from Paris to Peking, which is going to be an interesting 12-part series. And yeah, let's hope that there will be some interesting things happening to them.
Yeah, I like car videos, and Porsche's a client of ours. And it's great to work with them. It's a lot of fun, and that's that. So thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Arta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Your inaugural presenting effort on the content show, episode 2.
Sure. Thank you very much. Hope to be back.
Do you do you have any gigs coming up?
No, the only gig that was planned to be in late April, unfortunately, got cancelled to COVID. So not yet sure when I'm back on stage.
So I know in Australia, a lot of musicians and entertainers are going online and doing Instagram shows and YouTube shows, Facebook shows. Are you planning on doing anything like that?
Me personally, not, but I've heard that there are some stand-up shows planning to be in line. I'm not sure how it works. I think it's a weird idea. Stand-up comedy is most enjoyed when it's a live show. So I can't wait for this coronavirus to die out.
Yeah, me neither. All right. Thanks very much, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for watching.